morning, everyone. Here we are at our quarterly meeting. We're going to be reordering some of these tabs, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Thank you all for attending. If you take a look at tab 2, the minutes from the Audit and Finance Committee on 3/25, and then the special audit meeting that follows that. And we need to take action on the minutes of both of those meetings. So we can take a motion on.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And then the special meeting that related to the audit. Thank you. Second? Thank you, Dan. All in favor? Aye. Steve, it's up to you now, and we wanted to, and Lynn will be talking about welcoming Meredith, so Steve, take it away.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
And I don't see, it looks like, am I the only one on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Next time, I'll be there. I have to babysit for some grandkids this weekend, so we're leaving tomorrow for Connecticut. But I will defer go right to Lynn on this.
You have to push your button.
Got you. Now you can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. So if you can turn to tab 3 in your materials, or Steve, you should see it online as well.
Yeah,
I will start with the statement of net position. As has been the case over the past couple of meetings, there's not a ton of changes to really report in things. It's, the good news is we're starting to see the uptick and some release of some of the restrictions. So, I'm sure the team looking for booking events and so forth is just ready to really hit the ground running. With respect to March 31st, the cash position, I do want to assure everybody we're in a strong position, as we have been. As I've mentioned at previous meetings, we're very consistently working on projections and working with ASM on their needs and overall needs of the organization, and been as conservative as possible and continue to be so with respect to expenditures and things of that nature. We really think things through. So we do continue to remain in a cash position that is strong, enabling us to continuing to do everything that we need to do. With respect to line 1150, the due from Albany County for the occupancy tax, the $503,000 that you see on this report, I'm happy to report is just about $2,000 off. It has been adjusted to the actual for the most recent quarter that we received. And while we had to budget lower than we would have in prior years, obviously, our budgeting is paying off. And like I said, we're just about $2,000 below what we budgeted for that last quarter. So that's working out from our expenditure and income side of things. Other than that, there's not really much on the statement of net position. So if there's no questions, I'll move to the revenue, expenses, and changes in net position. Any questions? Thank you. So with respect to the revenue and expenses, as you can see at the top section there for the Capital Center, we are about half of budget for the Capital Center income that we expected through this period. Primarily, that's really a lot of timing. As a reminder, we end up having to put the budget together several months even ahead of our actual year end, and I think we were all hoping and anticipating that things would have maybe opened up a little bit more by now, but we were conservative. And as much as we were conservative, we're still a little bit slower than we hoped, but hopefully, like I said, things I'm sure we'll hear about in a bit are ramping up. But the other good news is when we tie a lot of the expenditures to events, we're below. If you look in that middle section there, we're running at about 80% or so for the budgeted expenditures. So in reality, for the Capitol Center itself, we're reasonably close. We're about 90% to where we expected the loss to be in the middle of the page there. And as I mentioned, and as tied to the assets, line 4100 for the occupancy tax, we're just about at the 100%. So again, that all working into the budget, we're in a good position. And the very bottom line, if you look, we're really within quite close proximity to the budget. And we're actually slightly below our budgeted loss. So the only item that might stick out at people is line 6200 for professional fees. Just for March, it looks off between actual and budget. But if you recall, last time I was the opposite, and it really is the timing on when the audit bills and things of that hit. So if you travel to the excuse me, far right, we're actually below budget. So those are the items to point out for the revenue and expenses. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. And our chairperson has graciously allowed me an extra minute. Hopefully you don't mind of your time, but I am more emotional than I thought I would be, but I did want to let people know that I'm retiring. My husband talked me into to retiring with him. So I never really thought I would say those words. And like I said, it's even more emotional than I thought it would be. Several of you around the table are a little newer, but several of you, we've worked for a long time. I see our esteemed assemblyman nodding his head. Yeah. He and I, over time, dealt with things with the hot tax and all of that good stuff. And I look over at some of the people who've really done such good work here. And I did want to say thank you. And I wanted to say that, this was one of the best projects I've ever worked on. It took a long time to get to this point, as many of us know. But one of my most treasured items is still the brick from the original demolition when we started to actually build a real building after several years of working toward that. So, you guys have really been such a good team to work with, and I look forward to coming here for future events and hopefully seeing everybody here and being able to actually maybe hug some of you or shake hands or be within a few feet. And Steve, I'm not sure. I guess you can see me. Thank you from the treasurer perspective too. You've been great to work with. So with that, I would like to introduce Meredith Brinkman will be taking my role on with respect to the Capitol Center and the ACCA. She comes with a ton of experience. She's got nonprofit experience, for-profit experience. She's worked with us now for quite a while. She obviously hasn't worked on this account, but I selected her in this transition process because I think she'll follow, hopefully, pretty closely with respect to my footsteps in conservatism. And she already has a relationship with Amy Thompson, who will be staying and is our kind of go-to person behind the scenes and does a fantastic job. She makes it an easy lift. So But Meredith will be involved in things like the audit as I have been, and certainly some of the resource needs that over time have come up. She's already working a little bit with Duncan, and I'll be around for another couple months to help the transition. So thank you. I can't believe I'm going to say the words and goodbye.
Well,
You
thank
will be
you.
missed.
You've done a wonderful job. Yes, you will be missed. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank the board at the end of the financial report for the time that was put in to make us take a realistic look at this year. And I think it's really made a big difference for us and how we're working through this. So thank you for many good years. And you know what? It's going to get more emotional before you go.
Sounds like the voice of experience
Yeah.
there.
I would like to make sure that the assemblyman can get to his next meeting on time. Move number, what is this?
5.
Five?
5.
Yes, 5. Ahead of the economic impact, Jay, if that's okay with you. And that's the last thing that we need to vote on. So I want to turn it
Can
over.
I just interrupt for a quick second to
Sure.
say who's ever running the AV, could they check to see if there's anybody in the waiting room on Zoom to be let in?
Yep,
There
there
she
she
is.
is.
Complete with child.
Hi, Sarah.
Which is why she's not here.
Morning, guys.
That's right.
Sorry about that. Exactly.
Thank you.
I have company now.
Yeah. And thanks for you two for texting back and forth, obviously, to let we know you were in the waiting room. Duncan?
Good morning. If I could ask you to turn to tab 5 in the booklet. Bring up the information on this. Several weeks ago, we began the RFQ process and we received 2 bids, one from Siemens, one from William Jacobs. It's summarized in the recommendation to award, which is in behind tab 5. The systems are equivalent. They've been reviewed by CHA as our engineer of record, and the recommendation is to award to William Jacobs & Son as apparent low. We did a significant amount of work following the bid to make sure that the quantities were correct, but more importantly, that the delivered ions would be comparable in both systems. The engineer is satisfied that the pre-submittal that we received as a courtesy from William Jacobs is correct. They've answered all the questions post-bid, and we feel very confident. I think the board should be aware that there's a significant difference between what was budgeted and the actual cost. The actual cost will be quite a bit lower. The original budget was higher for several reasons. The assumption on the part of the engineer was that more controls would be needed. There was also, I think, some concern over how many bars would be needed to deliver the ions in the breathable zone, the area where we are right now. Taking that into account, either one of the bids would have saved us money over the estimate. The other concern is that the apparent low is significantly lower than the apparent second. So we went through several iterations, several back and forths with William Jacobs and Plasma Air directly to make sure that the information coming from the factory was entirely consistent with the design specification. Because the way we put the RFQ together was based on a performance spec. We didn't want to tell them how many bars, how many ion needles are necessary. We wanted to tell them how many ions we wanted within the breathable zone. And we feel that Plasma Air has explained it satisfactorily. And we think that the apparent second was a price that was perhaps inflated to reflect the amount of advertising that they're doing nationwide, some of the other pressure, the fact that they have greater overhead associated with Siemens, and the fact that we're able to buy directly at a wholesale level as a contractor might from W.S. Jacobs, which is a local company, Schenectady, owned and managed locally as well. So to sum it up, the recommendation would be to award in the amount of $39,330. And following the RTA is a resolution that Bob put together with that amount. Are there any questions?
So Duncan, is there ongoing maintenance of this, or is this something that has a useful life, or just curiosity?
The duty cycle for these things is about 20 years without any replacement. The repair and maintenance, the repair is nil. The maintenance is what is coincidental with the normal filter and coil changes. So 3 times a year or thereabouts, Doug and his team go in and replace the passive filter systems, which, as you know, we now have MERV 13 in the building. At that time, they would be cleaning the coil, or at least 2 of those times, they'd be cleaning the coils as well. These units will be located right at the coil that either introduces heat if it's during a heating mode, or the glycol if it's in a cooling mode. And at that time, they would take and simply wipe off the surface of these needlepoint units. It's a very simple cleaning. It doesn't involve any particular, there's no danger, there's no chemical issue. It's just a matter of taking a damp swab and cleaning off the edges. That's recommended to be once a year, but the fact that Doug and his team will be going in 3 times a year, we're more than meeting the requirement on the part of the factory.
Thank you.
Any further questions? As Duncan indicated, we have a resolution. And now that we've gotten over, no, you did not transpose the numbers. It just looked that way.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, John.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Boy,
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we can go back.
ooh,
Did you do this? Are we having a movie or something, Joe?
the timing was just perfect, wasn't it? Really, that was.
Whoops. Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, Jill, I'd like to say what a great meeting you had yesterday, live and virtual as well. So a hybrid meeting turned out very nicely. The information was excellent. And at some point, I would like to talk to you about sharing especially some of that STR information. And Doug and I also spoke after your meeting about some of the ASM information for this board that gives us a better idea of kind of our growth and opportunity and guide path as we're coming out of this. So yeah, that's great. That's great. Who's doing?
Good morning.
Jay. Okay, thank you.
On behalf of Jill Delaney and Discover Albany, we'd like to present the first quarter economic impact report for 2021. We'll review the mission statement just very briefly. We always put this in our report just to remind everybody that we're not simply taking numbers and inputting them into a, pardon me, can you still, all right. We're not just taking the Capital Center numbers and putting them in. Do I have to hold this button? Or? Okay. I'm holding it. Sorry. My finger's slipping. We do some forensic investigation. We talk to our partners and work with our convention services manager to do a full assessment of the economic value of each meeting that takes place at the Capitol Center and put a true value of assessment on economic impact for our region. Moving to the next slide. The bar chart here, this year we're going to highlight with a background of green just to kind of give a little better relief. We hosted, there were 9 meetings at the Albany Capitol Center. Again, sports was the leader of the pack in this particular quarter. Unfortunately, we're assessing dollars in the low 100s versus the low millions. And for those who have the question of what one other event was, that was a vaccination event here at the Capitol Center that was shifted from the Times Union Center so that they could host the hockey. Moving to the numbers on the next slide, total spend for the quarter, $161,502. Again, we're talking low 100s when we were talking a year ago, low millions. Total visitors generated 4,125. Hotel rooms generated 358. Total events, 9. Total full-time equivalent jobs supported at the Capitol Center, 9. Again, at the very bottom of that slide, you'll see a blue relief box. This is the fourth quarter of pandemic restrictions. We're going to reach a point where the pandemic restrictions won't be a factor, which I think will begin to catalog our rebirth, as they say. Moving to the next slide, I wanted to give some perspective as to a little bit on how the financial report is translated back to the impact on the greater community. The hotel performance metrics that we put up here for 2019, 2020, and 2021 really give a stark comparison of where we have come from and where we are now. 2019, by all estimations, was one of the best years, if not the best year in the hotel industry. And for first quarter occupancy for 2019, we were at 53.3%. First quarter of 2020, we were at 44.4%. First quarter this year, 34.9%. So we can see the stark differences in the occupancy for the quarter, which then translates to our financial position now, or the financial position now of both our organizations. I put the first quarter RevPAR, and RevPAR is revenue per available room. So if you have 100 rooms and you sell one of them at $100, your RevPAR for that hotel is $1 per room. So it's a metric that's used in hotel industry to kind of give a sense of comparing markets. So the RevPAR currently at $27.82 is a distant cousin to what we were used to back in 2019. So we can see that the hotel market is continuing to suffer substantially. And just as a brief overview for what we have to look forward to, again, on the upper right-hand corner of the slide, occupancy percentage for the year, 2019, 58.7, 2020, 35% occupancy. And we do have a forecast offered to us by STR at 49.7%. There are many asterisks involved in that, but I think we're going to be pretty close to that, if not beating that. And just to kind of give a window into the activity that we're undertaking right now, Discover Albany as an entity has been tracking lead years. When a client comes to us, what year are you looking for? Certainly there's a lot of activity for this year, a lot of people looking to recover some kind of revenue opportunity for their meeting or event. But 2023 seems to be a bright star on our horizon. We're currently working with at least 6 leads in the first quarter of this year. And I believe that's growing every month. And those leads are what I would qualify as big boy leads that take numerous hotels, the convention facility in one instance. So we're excited for 2023. We're working on 21, and we think 2022 will be a strong year. But really, we see 2023 as the year of recovery that we can all kind of brag about.
One of the things they talked about, ASM talked about yesterday, was 75% of meeting planners will begin to rebook, but not until the fourth quarter of next year. So, and we saw certainly booking windows getting shorter and shorter before all this happened. So I think that pattern will probably persist. But just so we all know, we're kind of still in for the long haul. This isn't going to be over in the next year for sure.
Another data point that I saw yesterday at our annual meeting, 1/3 of all meeting planners were still reluctant to travel.
Yeah.
I think that's a bad leading indicator for the,
Right.
Any questions on this particular slide? This was generated to kind of give a little bit of perspective for, where we're currently standing.
Okay.
On the next slide, we see comparative first quarter 2020 versus first quarter 2021. 2021 is in the red, and 2020 is in the blue. And if we can all recall, the first quarter was almost complete when the shutdown occurred. So we're looking at, March 15th, March 13th, when things started to shut down. So we almost completed a full quarter. So you can obviously see the precipitous drop off. And as a reminder, next quarter's report, there were no events in second quarter 2020. So just to be a spoiler alert on that. And then we have the life of the building, again, March 1st, 2017 to March 31st, 2021. Just over $49 million. Sales tax revenue just under $6 million at 5.8. Total events 600. Hotel rooms generated 73,869. And we're all hoping for a rebound. Certainly there's opportunity out there, and we're working very hard with our partners at the Capitol Center and with our hotel partners to do that.
Next question.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Talk to us a little bit about that last bullet, FTE supported by the Capitol Center activity. How you come up with that?
The report for each event, there is a report generated, and we pull that number off of the report pulled out of the Destinations International Event Impact Calculator.
It feels somewhat misleading to me. It feels as though that we've got 28,000 new people working long after their events are gone. If that's what this means, what data proves that? If it doesn't mean that, it feels kind of misleading.
It is a point within the impact calculator. As you know, Joe, I've been in the business, or was in the business, a long time. It's always confused me as well. And it is for the life of the stuff that we're looking at here. It doesn't mean that these 20, but it took from an hourly basis, it equated to 27,000. But it is, I will say, it is can be a confusing statistic.
It's how it's worded, and I get it if it's part of the package and how it's raised.
It is, yeah.
But it's really just that. It feels, that's not something I might tout publicly.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
you
Right.
answer the,
Right.
no, who are
Yeah, where are they?
they? Thank you so much.
Just that was a detailed discussion at a meeting, I believe in 2018.
Yeah.
So we were wrestling with that and how to present that data clearly.
Well, that's true, because, some things going out online could color things in another fashion. So I think it's something that perhaps we can discuss over the next quarter before this board meets and make that determination.
Sorry, Mr. 2018. Sure.
You were somewhere.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving into staff reports. Shannon was so pumped when we did this pre-meeting last week. So put it on again this morning, girl.
Don't worry, I'm happy to be just as pumped today, especially when I have fun stuff to talk about. So, report for this quarter is healthy. As you can see, I actually have a decent amount of stuff listed under newly contracted events. Again, while it's still shorter than what I want it to be, this is a healthy list for us. So I'm excited about it for sure. Definitely, you can see within the list, there's lots of sports. There's definitely a few meetings in there as well. And probably the largest pickup for us is the Michelangelo A Different View exhibit that will be coming in July and August. That event will be open to the public. And we're very excited, even partnering with Discover Albany to help with some of the marketing efforts for the area on that event. So we're excited about that one, but you'll see that that's the majority of the reason. That equates to 21 events, just that piece alone. So that allows us to bump our number up to 71 events for the year, 178 event days, a little over 23,000 estimated guests to come through our doors. Hotel room nights still around 2,481, and we have an additional 10 contracts that have been issued. I can say that over this last week in particular, my phone has been ringing and my emails have been going more than I probably have seen in the last 6-7 months. Some of them are really starting to dig into what the specifics are surrounding having an event. They might not be ready to book, but I have a lot of inquiries trying to figure out what are the steps that they need to take to do it, which to me is just as good of a sign because people are starting to consider the process a little bit more. Majority of the outreach is local meetings. I have a lot of meeting outreach. We still have a lot of sport outreach. And we are getting a decent amount of social outreach in the realm of weddings. It's certainly not an influx, but I have probably between Anna and myself, we've done about 5 or 6 tours for larger scale weddings for 2022. Some are for later this year. So, the interest has definitely been picking up on our side. So I wanted to make sure I reported that to you guys. Currently, just to review, the number of canceled events that we have are 40, and that equates to 76 event days. And as you can see with the breakdown, it's a myriad of things with social and meetings being the largest categories. Majority of those meetings have picked up dates later in the 2022 calendar, and some are just hanging tight just due to constraints on signing contracts, due to reevaluating their programs as a whole. This whole process for us is not a one size fits all. Every single client that I talk to is going through something different. Every single client that I'm talking to has a different scenario or a different goal in mind, or I don't know where to start. Can you help me? It really, my sales efforts has really changed dramatically with what we do. Even though we're still in the process of selling, it really is more of a helpful guide at this stage. If we're comparing to where we were last year, we were at 114 events at this point. 177 days, 54,000, over 9,000 hotel room nights. We all know how 2020 shaped up. I look back at these numbers and thought to myself how I probably felt at that time. Oh, things are going to be okay. We'll be all right. But how far we've all come. If we go forward to 2022, again, it's another super healthy list. I'm always happy when I have hotel rooms associated with more than none of my events that I'm listing. One really, really great pickup was the New York State Craft Brewers Conference. We had talked a little bit about that in our economic impact meeting. That event has been at the Desmond for quite some time. They have outgrown the space, and we actually have been working with that group since 2018. To show them what we have to offer, show them how they could do their event differently, how this building would allow them to continue to grow and stay in Albany, which is the key, because they were thinking about going to Saratoga. So we're very excited about that. And then the other programs that we have are repeat business for us, but it's always great to sign up repeat business as well. So that brings our 2020 calendar to 12. 27 event days, 6,930 hotel room nights. And I think, again, it's real powerful to recognize the volume of hotel room nights associated just with 12 events. That's the sort of numbers that we're used to seeing. So that gets me excited about 2022. And then we're estimated for, we have 11 more contracts issued for 2022. That number, I think you'll slowly start to see increase. Like I said, I have a lot of people that have holds in the dates, but they are on hold themselves to be able to sign contracts due to financial constraints or just overall board approval to move forward. If we look at where we were last year, looking a year ahead, we're not too far off. 27 events, 50 event days, hotel room nights, obviously you can see was quite large at this time last year. And a total of 16,920 guests. So we're getting there. I think the 2022 calendar has a lot more holds than contracted events that I would like to see, but it's a work in progress right now. And I've said many times that this journey that we're on is definitely a marathon, not a sprint. We really have to help people through what they're getting through and be flexible and work with them as best as possible, because that's, I think, what everybody needs. Everyone needs just a little helping hand right now. And you know, yesterday I dealt with a client that literally cried to me on the phone because the dancing pods are gone. She was so excited that she didn't have to, figure out how to put 150 people in prom in dancing pods. So, it's really a huge mixed bag of what we're going through. But as the regulations change, we have a huge outreach list of clients that we reach out to. In those days, we usually spend on the phone 8 hours a day, going through and talking to people. So I think we've bonded a lot more with clients than we ever have. So I think it's actually maybe a good problem. The trust factor and what we're going through with them has certainly changed, but I think we will all be stronger for it at the end. So, and I've gotten carried away with myself. I'm sorry. So the next page is really just the graphs showing everything that I just kind of talked about for 2021 and 2022. And it really breaks down what shows are really showing at the top. Public shows obviously are the large number for us for 2021, and that's due in part to that exhibit that has been booked. And again, no other big surprise that sports and meeting categories are also catching up in the high volume of numbers. So if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
I had a question when I looked at it last week, that Michelangelo exhibit. It looks like that number is low for a month of 1,000 people. Is that because it's all timed out?
Honestly, that was a conservative estimate from us, because we're just not quite sure what it's going to equate out to.
Maybe it came from other destinations because it has moved around.
Yeah, and it's also hard to estimate based off of areas outside of New York,
right?
Because
right.
Our
so
climate is so unique here. But that was just our conservative estimate of our hope of.
We like conservative.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Question. I have a question. Shannon?
I'm sure you probably get this question from the people trying to make selections. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Like, as I look at this carefully wrapped lemon square, I'm wondering, well, that's going to add a little bit of more cost to events and stuff like that. So I'm kind of, I guess if I was going to be scheduling something, I'd be more interested in finding out. But as a board member, I'm interested too, because that will have an impact. What are we seeing in regards to rates and costs and things like that?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's finding out a new way to put the puzzle together.
Right.
That's how I describe it to clients. Yes, your food costs might be a little bit more due to the packaging, due to the staffing that needs to be there now to serve food or to prepare food. Your AV costs may be a little bit higher because you need professionals now to run the sort of scenario, and just look at all the equipment that's in this room for this meeting. But you're going to have less people. So the amount of mouths that you have to feed will be less. So even though you might see a little uptick in that number, it might not be felt in the same way because the volume of your program isn't the same. Mazzone, our partnership with Mazzone and even ACES has been really good. You know, we work with a client, we don't work with them individually, we work with them together to really put that puzzle piece together. So if I have a client that comes back to us and says, oh, the food was, you know, $2,500 and that's $500 off of what I was going to do. We go back together as a team and say, okay, how can we shave a little bit on our sort of where they need to go? Sometimes we're able to do it. And I'll be honest, sometimes we're not. There are sometimes these hard costs in place that there's not much that we can do about them. But we always make sure we put our heads together as a team to say, you know, do you really need an 85-inch plasma screen TV? Can we do something smaller? You know, is there a way to kind of, you know, cut the corners a little bit, not cut the corners, but to, you know, create the package where they're not feeling it so much one way versus the other. We've had a lot of success and a lot of luck with the clients that we've worked with. I haven't had too many, actually, to be honest with you, give a lot of pushback on what they're seeing. I think they're prepared for it. I think they know it's coming, and they are planning sooner. And that's really, and I discover all he said the same. Wait to plan sooner so that we can get those budgets to you and those numbers to you early, so that you can figure out, you know, how to make things happen. And we have a lot of people that reach out right now just looking for basically pricing info to see what their options are. They might not even be, you know, putting a date on the calendar, but they're just curious about what things are going to cost.
Great.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, my look around who's talking. Shannon and I have been kind of on a meeting circuit through the past year where we're really like on all these Zooms as the speaker to educate meeting planners and nonprofit leadership on, you know, what the expectation will be when you return. So they've been being prepared, you know, through SA and other groups of, you know, how different it's going to look and what you should budget for.
Thank you. Steve, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. For the repeat events that have been booked, is there a difference in the number of attendees from previous events on those?
Yeah, if it is short term, you know, if I had something, I don't know, maybe cancel in early this year and they're shifting to later this year, there hasn't been too much of a change in people. But if I have people changing from this year to 2022, I think everyone is under the impression that 2022 will be able to all, as Lynn said, hug each other and be close to each other. So I'm not seeing a huge drop in numbers, but what I am seeing is a change in budgets. You know, them wanting to possibly renegotiate their food and beverage minimum, you know, not sure whether they can commit to the same type of level of programming that they've done due to financial constraints. And that's not everybody. That's not everyone across the board. Some people are ready to go and, you know, prepared to do what they need to do. But I do have, I would say, about 25% of the groups that are retaking a look at their contract and hoping to renegotiate some of those terms.
I'm just wondering if they, the ones that are multiple days, are any of those people, are more people choosing to not stay overnight or come for, you know, if it's a 2-day event, or some people just coming for 1 day and so on?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe Discover Albany can answer a little better than me, but, you know, maybe, you know, there might be a little bit more apt to have that happen. I haven't seen or heard any communication on that for 2022 and beyond. This year, certainly, you know, we have a couple of programs that are in the fourth quarter. And, you know, there are multiple days, and they are seeing some people doing 1 day versus 2 days due to travel. But, I don't have enough volume to, I think, be able to appropriately answer that broad question.
That's mostly the answer, is there's not enough data to give a good answer. I can tell you that contract negotiation is minimizing meeting planner damages should their meeting fall short of expectations.
Yeah.
So that's where the remedy lies. It doesn't lie in well, we were 500 last year, we'll go 400 this year. It lies in, well, we were 500 last year, we want to be 500 next year, but we're going to lower our attrition, our room requirements, our room rental, our guest room rentals, all of those other things, cancellation, contract adjustment periods, like 90 days prior, so contract negotiation becomes where the protection for the meeting planner comes, and potential shortfalls for facilities and hotels.
Joe, did you have a comment?
Yeah, you guys hit on it, and you're making me happy on two fronts. First of all, you're doing great work at a difficult time, so it can't be more than appreciated by this group. But establishing trust and credibility with your clients and potential clients in this environment, and as we continue to open up into a new world, is everything. And you guys already have a leg up on that because of how good you are, your body of work and all that. But you have to know that there's an insecurity as they're going. And I'm sure you're catching this in all these meetings, and it's even more difficult on the electronic platforms. So, but you hit those high points, and I want you to just emphasize that they're really counting on you and maintain that trust and credibility that you all have earned and deserve. And I think that's going to put us ahead of our competition. So well done. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michelle, if I may, we intend to include the detail of the plasma, so the cold plasma system as well, because that's going to put us ahead of a lot of other
Yeah.
facilities.
Yeah. Doug, did you have anything to add?
Just a few items, yes, and echoing Duncan there with, thank you to the board for the continued investment into the facility. Just as Joe said, that's a huge selling point for us because we are selling the facility so much more, and to have these assets. And, I think the building presents itself very well. Yesterday's event, I think that a ton of compliments we received afterwards. I don't think there was any concern from the attendees. And, as I said yesterday, that group that was there yesterday is going to be the ones to help lead us back into the meeting business. So I think that was very good. And also the ionization products helped us with the RG box certification, which is the standard for the facilities now coming out of the pandemic. So thank you again to the board for that. A couple other updates. Our website is continuing to get remodel, we'll call it, and we should have I have a call with them tomorrow, so we'll see some new looks on that. And again, making more of an online presence for us. I think our site now is, it's been 4 years. A lot of the stuff on there is pre-construction, so we're updating that, keeping the Capitol Complex fresh. We did resume our Capitol Complex meetings with the folks at the Empire State Plaza this week. So again, just trying to get back into business. Consumer show seems to be the one, another item that we're hitting. A lot of public shows. There's some pent up demand. We've got some calls about a dog show, a sneaker show, a home show, a bridal show. So I think we'll see a lot more of that business that we haven't seen before. And then, never would I thought when we made the recommendation to buy basketball floors that we would keep them down for 14 months, but they have been very successful as a revenue generator. I will say we had the NCAA basketball Division II, without fans. But at the conclusion of that, the NCAA was very excited. The College of St. Rose was excited, and they were looking at, possibly doing a holiday tournament now with fans, as soon as this year. We did the MAC volleyball tournament, again, without fans, but, they asked for a proposal for November to do it with fans. So I think, it opened our doors up to some new business. And I think the key to this facility is flexibility in its space. And, one last thing I do want to say that, both Albany County Health Department and the State Health Department have been a huge asset. They respond to my emails almost instantly. We get responses. So none of our clients have been held up, on those questions, which I think is also huge and a statement to the area. So.
Right. Duncan, I seem to have skipped over the ACCA logo. You have it on the agenda here. I don't know if you want to speak to it or if we're at a point. I will tell you that last week when the Economic Impact Committee met, We deputize them to help make the recommendation to the full board. And so that will be forthcoming. But is there any update on where we're at?
I spoke with Baker last night, and they're supposed to have an update within a week
Okay.
and some early images for the committee to take a look at. I think the hope is that we would be able to have something before the committee by July and then before the board at the July meeting, so it can coincide with the website rebuild.
That's what I was just going to ask, is make sure it's,
Yeah, I've talked to Doug about this. We want to make sure
Okay.
that it's timed well. Baker understands that, and we should be able to meet that schedule.
okay. Moving on to legal report. Bob, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Okay, great.
It's the best report possible. That's perfect.
Good job.
Excellent. When that's your most promising report, you know you're doing fine.
Nobody's after us. This is great. All right, any other discussion for the board to take up? This has been a very positive meeting. As I said, I asked Jill to share some information with us, post. One of the things that, let's just take a big breath, because SDR is telling us that it will take to 2024 before we get up to 2019 levels. So it'll be a long row. Everybody keep rowing, and we're absolutely in the right direction for sure. So
Madam Chair,
yes,
just I want to thank Lynn on behalf of everybody. I mean, I understand that you were a contractor, you came, but you have provided service to the people of the city, the state, and the county, and it's been extraordinary service. And congratulations, Mazel Tov.
Thank you. Okay, the increase in emotion is
yeah, I told
occurring
you.
here.
I told you. I warned you.
Really, I was just happy that for once, you know, people never like to hear the accounting, and for once people were happy to not hear anything from legal.
Okay, can I have a motion then to adjourn? Thank you. And this is a great meeting. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Bye.